Hey ladies and gents, welcome to the Controlled Interest Gamecast, where we talk about video games and everything happening in the industry. Episode 89, as always, I'm joined by Dom.
Yeah, coming to you from my dungeon here.
And Jordan.
Greetings.
And special returning guest for, I think, the third time, Ian from Easy Allies.
I think so, yeah. Hi.
Yeah, I think it's been 3 times. We get you on as soon as we can. You're a very busy man, so we try to get you in as often as we can. Thank you for joining us this week.
Happy to be here.
And a very busy news week. But I guess, yeah, we'll hop into what we've been playing lately. For me, it's another week of simply just Monster Hunter World. I'm about 55 hours in now. That's basically all I've been playing. I know I'm not as deep, as deep as Ian is. I think you're over 100 hours or something, right? I remember.
Oh yeah, way over.
Yeah,
100 something.
As far as like the main campaign goes, I just did the whole thing with the Pink Rathian. So, I've just been doing a lot of side stuff too, playing with friends, doing arenas. I'm like brand new to the Monster Hunter franchise. Like I've never really played any of the other ones, but like this one has hooked me like crazy. I guess I don't really need to hop into everything I've specifically been doing, but I have been actually experimenting with other weapons. So I've been using the Insect Glaive a lot. I like that.
Yeah.
But I wanted to have a backup weapon because, for me personally, Diablos gave me such a hard time, which is weird because I heard people have a lot of issues with Anjanath, and I didn't really have any issues with Anjanath, like starting off in the game. And with that, when I came to Diablos, I just hit a wall. So I tried the Charged Axe, I think is what it's called, the one where it's like flips from like a blunt axe like a sharp sword.
Charge blade, yeah.
Yeah. And that one's I kind of like it, but nothing's like the Insect Glaive, man. Like the maneuverability and like I love the Kinsect, how you can just like pick off the buffs you want, like the movement speed and the attack and all that stuff. It just that game's so beautiful because there's a weapon for every kind of playstyle, which I really enjoy. You see that in like the Dark Souls series and stuff, but not to the extent I think of with Monster Hunter, where each weapon is super, super unique to that playstyle. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I wanted to finish Celeste. I was able to put in like 30 minutes into it. I'm still enjoying it. I just haven't gotten around to beating it. I think it's like a 5-hour game, and I'm like 3 hours in, so I'm past the halfway point. Other than that, I watched Black Panther. Loved it. I wouldn't say it's my favorite MCU movie. I'd probably still put Winter Soldier above it, but it was a fantastic film. I love the social commentary in it. My only gripe with the movie is that there was some funky CG, but I kind of deal with that in Marvel movies. Like, I don't know if you guys remember in Civil War, the scene where Iron Man's holding a War Machine. Robert Downey Jr.'s face looks very weird in the suit. Like, it just looked like it wasn't placed correctly or something. Yeah, I love the movie. I think the worst parts of that movie were when there were the 2 CG characters, when Killmonger and T'Challa were fighting each other. But, like, I love the ending of that movie. Real quick aside as well, Ryan Coogler, the director, talked about how the post-credit scene, which I don't want to ruin for people who haven't seen it, was going to be the original ending, but he felt that making the actual ending what it was, which I don't want to spoil it for people, felt like it was more impactful, and I agree with the whole message of the movie, rather than that post-credit scene or mid-credit scene.
Yeah, the mid-credit.
Interesting.
Yeah, I love the movie, though. I don't want to go too long on it. But yeah, it's pretty much it for me. Monster Hunter World as usual. What about you guys?
So this is, I guess, week 3 where I've kind of been taking a step back from the old game machines, but plenty of other stuff to do. We were talking about Annihilation that's coming out this weekend, and I've been reading through that trilogy of books, so I'm on the 3rd one right now. Also reading Watchmen for now the 3rd time, going along with Comic Book Girl 19's Watchmen Club that she's doing. Finishing up Overlord, the anime. Pretty cool stuff. What else? Oh, I've been going back through a lot of the DC animated films, and I know you guys know I'm a big fan of that stuff. I watch all of those, but watched Justice League.
That Harley Quinn one, right? That was the best one.
Fuck, Dom, don't. Don't do it to me. The worst part, Dom, about that is that it is technically, because of Bruce Timm in an interview, it is technically part of the Batman the Animated Series canon. It is like
That's
this
the one that
awful
has like the weird like sex
fart
scenes,
jokes
right?
and sex scene and
Yeah.
2 terrible musical numbers back to back. Yeah, it is garbage, and that's the craziest part is that the vast majority of the DC animated movies are really fucking dope. So, yeah, Justice League Crisis on Two Earths is one that I watched, which was actually meant to be a movie for the Justice League animated series back in the day, but kind of got reworked, and it was really fucking good the second time. And then I also watched Batman Gotham Knight, which came out around the time of The Dark Knight. And it is really fucking cool. It's Batman anime. These different anime studios in Japan, like Madhouse and Production IG, they did these little vignettes. I think there's 5 of them. And they're just, all disconnected little Batman short stories. Really cool stuff. That is something I would recommend to just about anybody if you haven't seen it.
Is Batman Ninja out?
No, but that's kind of why I was specifically watching that one, because
Right.
that's the next little Batman anime, which I was also thinking today about how crazy it is that more Western and Eastern collaborations don't happen there, where like you give the Eastern Japanese studios licenses. Like we've had Marvel anime series. We've had these couple of Batman anime movies, but I'd like to see it happen more often, and hopefully Batman Ninja coming out in April is the start of that, because it's just so fucking cool what those guys can do with our super American, specifically comic book properties. So, yeah, that shit is really good. Unfortunately, there is the dark mark that is Batman and Harley Quinn. But we don't have to watch that anymore.
Did you watch the Killing Joke animated?
Yeah. Okay, so we've cracked the egg, guys. I guess we're getting into it. I think Bruce Timm's fallen off of his fucking rocker. Bruce Timm is the guy that did the whole DC animated universe back in the 90s and early 2000s with Batman the Animated Series, Superman the Animated Series, Justice League, and then Batman Beyond. And all that shit was really good. The movies, Batman and Mr. Freeze Sub-Zero and Batman Mask of the Phantasm, all that shit is awesome. And then in these last few years, he's kind of gotten back on that horse, and he did Batman the Killing Joke, where he adds in this like prologue almost at the beginning with Batgirl, where she's fucking Bruce Wayne on a fucking rooftop, and then now we get Batman and Harley Quinn. It's like, dude, you're clearly off your fucking rocker. You've jumped the shark. Like, maybe
It was
just
pretty
take
weird.
the reins back. Yeah, I don't know what happened to Bruce Timm, but yeah.
It's weird. It's like it's. Never mind. I was gonna make a comparison, and you don't want to hear it. It's pretty bad. It's weird though, because that was definitely, people were wondering, like, it doesn't seem, the Killing Joke's great, but how are they gonna make a full length like animated movie out of it? And they're like,
Yeah, it's real
We'll
short.
just add weird stuff, and then it didn't pay off.
Well,
I mean,
the other thing,
honestly,
too,
it
after
works
that
except for that sex scene.
yeah,
I think if they just made the book, if it had just been an hour long, it would have been fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
because everything after that weird prologue piece was pretty much,
Yeah.
clip for clip, the book.
Yeah.
But
If it
they
ain't
didn't
broke,
really,
don't fix it.
Exactly.
Yeah, but even then, it didn't add anything for me, because I was like, this is as if I'm reading the comic again,
Right.
Yeah.
which is good. I mean, I was picturing, like Mark Hamill's voice anyway or whatever, so I don't know.
It was
the prologue
good,
stuff was
but
weird.
that comic is like super fucking special, so it was going to be
Yeah.
really hard, even without the extra part, to do it total justice and just nail that shit. So, yeah, at the end of the day, you might wish that they had just left it alone. But like I said, most of these DC animated movies are home runs, so every now and then there's going to be a couple swing and a miss.
DC has to nail it in some front when it comes to movies, and
Yeah,
they nail
Jesus
the animated ones,
Christ.
for the most part, anyways. Dom, what have you played? Did you have a chance to play anything?
I got into some Batman stuff also. Episode
Nice.
4 of Telltale's Batman.
Oh, okay.
Season 2.
I forgot that hadn't finished yet, man.
Yeah. Yep. Episode
Dying
4
for that
came
to
out
happen.
episode 4 came out like a week or two ago, and it took me a while to get to it, but I finally did. Right before I moved, actually. I haven't plugged my PS4 back in since I moved, so. But episode 4 was more craziness. Like the first season, I kind of liked it. I think Jordan, you did too, because they kind of took their own liberties with the typical Batman lore. They kind of made their own things and kind of, did some different things with characters, and they continue to do that. But they're going even further, and it's getting to the point where I'm like, okay, now it's like we're being different just for the sake of it almost, and I don't know, it's not holding me in as close as the first season did at this point, but it's not bad. And all the Joker and Harley Quinn stuff, that's pretty much, they're kind of like the main characters really in this season, and I don't want to say too much, but it's different what they're doing with them. So, and it kind of came to a bit of a climax in episode 4, but
I just started episode 1 of season 1 of that actually like a week ago.
Okay,
that's
cool.
Kind of just random. It was free on PSN last month or something. So.
I like the first season. I haven't played all of the second season yet, but like Dom said, the liberties they take with Ian are pretty interesting. Like there's some stuff that as like somebody who follows Batman, you're like, oh, I expect this to play out like this, and they hit you with some blindsides that are really interesting, really cool.
I was digging it so far.
It's crazy how you can take a treasure trove of the Batman characters and do something fresh and creative with it, huh?
Yeah.
Fucking Joss Whedon, get the fuck out of here.
I don't know if you saw that, Ian. There was news today that Joss Whedon dropped out of the Batgirl movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. He
but tell him why.
He said he didn't have a story for it. Yeah, very weird.
I mean, I think that might be a convenient excuse too.
Yeah.
Like,
I agree.
The fact
it's
that
a bitch ass excuse.
Yeah, but like you need a woman to direct it. Also, I kind of wish they would do Batwoman, because that rebooted comic
Kate Kane, yes,
was really good.
Oh yes,
it started really good. The Rucka stuff was really good, and then it got like kind of lost me after a while. But when it booted up, it was really good.
I'm really not familiar with Batwoman. Does she rock the same like purple yellow suit, or is it like a black suit? Like,
no, dude. Batman? She basically has a female Batman Beyond suit, kind of.
Oh,
yeah. And she has this awesome, like fiery red hair that's coming out of the top of her cowl that looks really dope.
That's awesome.
Plus she's gay, which is really cool.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah.
She like
that's interesting.
She like gets kicked out of the military because she won't lie. She won't just like toe the party line. You know, he's like, just tell me what I need to hear and you'll be all right, her general or whatever. And then she's like, I'm gay.
Yeah, that's funny.
He's like, well, see you later.
That's cool. So they dive into the whole don't ask, don't tell thing.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
That's like, it was a couple years ago. I don't know when that reboot started, but during New 52, I think.
New 52, yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
She's gay in the DC sense, like she actually has a reason to be, as opposed to the Marvel sense where everything's diversity for no fucking reason at all.
Yeah, it's like part of the story, which is cool.
Yeah,
that's
I can appreciate that.
Dom, you were talking about obviously Batman Season 2. I forgot that the Guardians game was still going on, because I remember when that game first came out, I was like, when it finishes, I'll get it all and I want to play through it. Even though like the reviews are kind of I still like playing through Telltale games. They're like junk food for me. I mean, like Walking Dead Season 1 is really good, but like a lot of them are just like, I just like going through the motions. But yeah, that game hasn't even finished its first season yet, which is weird because that one came out a while back. It just,
you don't hear about it much.
Telltale's whole situation now with like the layoffs and everything and them scaling back, it's like
I think they did finish Guardians though.
No, it's only 4 episodes. I'm pretty sure. I could be completely wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's only 4 episodes.
Are they changing engines now? Are they changing engines now finally because they fired everyone?
I don't know. So they confirmed. The only thing we know is obviously the last season, the finale of Walking Dead Season 4. We know Wolf Among Us Season 2, and that's pretty much it. So I don't know if they're going to change their engine just for those 2 games, or if they're going to go get those out and then do something. But
they've said that Game of Thrones Season 2 is like on hiatus, essentially.
Yeah, when is that ever happening?
Unfortunately.
We'll see that by the time George R.R. Martin finishes the actual books.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ian, what have you played?
Were you done, Dom? Or
that was it.
Oh, okay.
Crazy busy, so yeah.
I mean, Monster Hunter World, praise be, like goaty 5 ever, but yeah, I mean, I'm I'm in the end game grind right now. I'm just trying to get to level 50 so that tempered monsters, so I can fight tempered elder dragons and actually get augmented gems to drop at a reasonable rate. But yeah, just kind of doing that. Insect glaive for life. Can't go back.
Yep.
Everything else is too slow. I'd say if you're having trouble with like Diablos and stuff, jump more. It's harder for them to hit you. Like I'm almost like never on the ground.
Yeah.
Oh.
And I just like solo everything, and it's like easier.
Well, the scaling is it scales one person and then 4 people, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
okay.
multi or single, and that's it.
Yeah.
Apparently, which is pretty crazy. But besides that, I played. What did I play? I streamed the Age of Empires Definitive Edition a little bit. That was weird.
How was it though? I mean,
it's good. It's just like it's just that game, but
Yeah.
looks better. You know, like I thought they might add some of the streamlining stuff that and like quality of life features that later games had. Like 2. I remember playing a lot of 2 and 3, even though apparently 3 is not well liked historically, I guess. But an Age of Mythology, I liked. But there are just some things in this one that I forgot weren't there. You know, in the first one. But it's really good. It's also like really hard. During the stream I realized how bad I was at that game.
That's funny.
So like we resorted to cheats.
Awesome.
Cheese
pretty
it.
quickly. But then I've been getting really into a game called Slay the Spire, which is like this weird early access. It's sort of like Dominion meets Darkest Dungeon, I guess. You have cards. It's one of the new billion card based games, but it's really interesting the way it does it. It's a roguelike. You go through these dungeons and you just go until you die, and you gain points toward unlocking like new cards to randomly show up after you beat a boss or a enemy. You get a new card to add to your deck, and then you just kind of like, it's like an arena run where you just kind of like make a deck as you go and hope for the best. But it's cool. I like it a lot. Yeah. And then just now before we started recording this, I bought the new expansion for Stellaris. So that just came out today, as of today on this recording. So I'm excited for that. It adds all kinds of crazy new stuff, I guess. I don't even know the full extent, but it's called Apocalypse. So that bodes well for these planets, I think. Yeah. What else? We started Batman. Yeah. I saw Black Panther as well. I really liked it. I thought that it's probably one of their best villains, like everybody's been saying.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Just because like it's a really weird movie, because I've heard a few people say this as a critique, but I think it's the point of the movie is like you're kind of on the bad guy's side for a while. You're like, your methods are wrong, like you've got evil methods, but like the point you're making is sort of right. Like I kind of agree with what you're saying, and like you can tell that the heroes do too, kind of. It's pretty interesting. I really liked it, and yeah, like I think it had less of a budget for effects than maybe your Avengers movies do, but I don't know. I found this one more interesting than I find those. Yeah, and I'm just stoked for Annihilation. Seeing that tomorrow. I've read all those books. I love them. So we'll see. It is interesting, like the news of whitewashing that they were talking about, because in the first book, you don't even know their names. They're just referred to as their job title.
Okay.
And then in, I think, the third book, you find out that like the main character is Asian, but it's like not a thing. It doesn't. If I remember, I read them a long time ago, but like it's very interesting. Like Alex Garland was like, I didn't even know about this, which might be a lie. I don't know, but it's really interesting because like obviously I think whitewashing is bad, but it's so weird in these books where like the characters are basically not described in any way. It's just left up for your imagination. So I could see if it is true that he didn't know. I could see that happening, I guess, but it's kind of a bummer. But whatever.
That's an interesting situation though, because it's not like right off the bat where it is. People know off the bat that it's an Asian character. It's really weird. Yeah.
I mean, ideally, right? Like, people just are who they are. They're described, and like things like that just come up when they would naturally come up, you know, in a novel. But then it runs the risk of this happening, and like unless it is explicit, then like sadly I think Hollywood will default to white actors most of the time, you know. Because that's just like what they do. But yeah, it's a murky situation, because it's like I don't know if they were intentionally doing it, but it's kind of a bummer that it happened.
Yeah,
but I just hope the movie is good too. I don't know.
It's a weird conversation too, because like how many people that read the first book read the whole trilogy, so to them that character doesn't really have a specific race. It's a very weird situation.
Well, and the books are so bizarre just by nature too. Like,
yeah,
I mean, I don't want to say too much, but like the second book is very different from the first, and then the third kind of like ties them together. But like
genre swap.
The genre, and it like changes tone and setting and like intent like a lot, and it isn't. I mean, really, you could look, because they all came out. They like, somebody referred to it as like a Netflix release strategy, but all three books came out, I think, in the same year, and you could almost. I almost kind of looked at them as one book, because I audiobooked them like back to back to back, and looking at it like that, it makes a little more sense. Like it flows a little better. It's sort of like how if you think of Twin Peaks season 3 as a movie instead of a series, it actually kind of works better. It's just an 18-hour movie, which people hate when people say that, but it kind of makes more sense as a thing.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Reading earlier on in the third book, it's even switches perspectives. Like it was third person, and then I think went to second person for this one chapter. I was like, damn, that's a big jump.
Vandermeer does some weird stuff.
Oh yeah, he has a very eccentric style in a lot of ways.
Yeah, well, because the first book is like almost like Bram Stoker-esque, where it's just like a person's field journal, you know, and so it's like, man, and I'm really looking forward to the movie, because it's like, how are you going to film things where like the character can't even describe what they're seeing, because it's like so brain melting. Like, ooh, looking forward to it, because there aren't any good. It's being compared to Lovecraft, you know. And there aren't that many good Lovecraft movies, which I think is sadly, you know, like cosmic horror is my favorite genre of horror, and it's like, we need more good. Just let Guillermo do At the Mountains of Madness, man. Let him do it. Give him all the money he needs.
I would say that Bloodborne is probably the best Lovecraft adaptation we have, and it's not even a Lovecraft adaptation. So
absolutely.
And Jordan, did I tell you I found? Apparently this has been a thing going around. I might have mentioned it already. Someone on Reddit, I think, put together basically I guess you call it a novel or a collection of all the Bloodborne lore, like sequentially described or whatever. And he kind of lays out all the facts and all the stuff, and then where it gets kind of murky, he says, well, then this is my interpretation of what this means.
Yes. That sounds awesome.
Very cool.
It's called The Pale Blood Hunt. So, I mean, if you just Google it, you'll find...
I think I've heard of that, actually, yeah.
Did Vada Video write this, or who did it?
I think he referenced it, actually, in a video.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Very cool. Yeah. Jared, quick fact check for you. Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy Telltale Episode 5 was released on November 17th of last year.
Really?
November 7th.
Wow.
I thought it was
okay, then I'm way off. I guess that shows... all right. I thought that
I remember downloading it. I was like, I downloaded that final episode.
Came out like an old lady fart, just sort of.
No one talks about it. I think out of like the games media people I follow, I literally think Kyle from Easy Allies was the only person I ever heard play it, and he was like, yeah, it's whatever. Well, that's Kyle, so it can be hit or miss. I guess we'll hop into
one more thing I wanted to mention. I just remembered. Because it happened right before that we started this. Janelle Monae just put out 2 fire music videos. They're out of control.
Ooh.
I watched them like 4 times a piece, and they're so good.
I'm not familiar with the artist, but I saw you post it on Twitter, and I was like, I'm gathering the news, so I listened to it beforehand. It's really good, and the music video is very like vibrant and colorful. Really cool.
I mean, she's basically Prince and Bowie. Yeah, she's out of control. She's so good. Plus, she's just like the gloves are off, man. It's so good.
Oh, yeah,
just
she's
like,
weird.
I'm tired of this. Like,
That's
oh
awesome.
Yeah.
god, she's so good. Anyway,
Let's hop into the news now. So the first news story is about Unity actually partnering with IBM to bring Watson AI to games. So there was a report that happened via Unity's blog, which stated that IBM Watson was going to have its own Unity SDK, which is a software development kit, and it's available in the Unity Asset Store currently. And people are already kind of talking about the things that can happen in the future with AR and VR with this type of AI available to them. It's very interesting. We talked about before the show, Ian, that last time you were on, or maybe the first time you were on, we talked about like the future of AI in games. And I want to hear from you. What's your perspective on this AI from IBM Watson? What do you think that's going to do for games?
oh, I mean, I think if I remember correctly, last time I was on, I said something to the effect that I think the next big jump that'll wow everyone in the way that like jumping to HD with graphics did is more convincing AI. I think that's one of the big things that games needs to do to keep tech pushing forward. I think that's one of the next big jumps. And so, yeah, I think that using Watson, this AI that's been around for a while, they've been tweaking for a long time, that's been, he's been used in a lot of different gaming scenarios too, right? Like chess and Jeopardy and stuff, right? And so I think it's, if I'm remembering correctly, I think he competed on Jeopardy and plays chess with people. But yeah, I think it's really interesting. And plus giving it to people, or allowing access to people to some kind of powerful AI like this. Yeah, I'm really excited to see what'll happen.
Interesting thing in the article, it also goes on to state that a few examples that have already been used with this type of technology is that it gave people the ability to issue vocal commands to NPCs in Star Trek Bridge Crew. And,
oh, cool.
And I guess in Watson and Waffles, which I'm not familiar with, it's a VR adventure title, I guess Watson AI was used to help identify 3D objects drawn by the player to the NPCs, which is really interesting. Yeah. So there's a lot of things that can happen with the future of this. I think like the melding of this is really cool. Unity is actually an engine I'm learning to dabble in with game design and stuff. And
me too.
It's a very interesting engine. A lot of people associate it with indie games, but I think it's a lot more powerful than people give it credit for. I think it just depends on what you know to do with the tools at hand. But like I really think this could be like, I don't want to say a groundbreaking moment because I don't want to go that crazy with it, but it's very interesting to see this partnership and see where it goes, because the Watson AI is like insane with the things it can do. So
It's the real shit.
yeah. Dom or Jordan, do you have anything to say on it about this merger?
No, I mean, I don't know enough about Watson, but I keep hearing about it. It seems to be like the hotness, so to speak. I don't know why I said that word, but it's kind of like the popular thing. Even like the company I work for, like we talk about, possibly utilizing Watson for our, SAP system and yada yada. Like just all sorts of different areas. It gets talked about being used. Again, I don't know enough about it to say anything intelligent more than that, but yeah, it's interesting. We'll see what comes of it.
Well, I think the biggest thing is that it's used heavily in like B2B and like B2C things, with business to business and business to consumer, and it's also cloud based, which I think helps it too. The cloud, so it's a very
Love that cloud.
Yeah, I love the tagline on this article too. It says "Elementary, my dear Watson." So I was like, oh yeah, of course you're gonna make that pun. Anything.
Probably the first time that's been used. In regards.
Yeah.
The second thing I wanted to touch on isn't necessarily a news story, and we don't need to go too much into it because I don't think everybody here on the podcast watched the video. But DICE is happening this week as we record this podcast, and Phil Spencer had a talk he gave. It was about a 45-minute discussion where he just went on stage and was very candid, and he talked about toxic corporate culture within Microsoft and Xbox and just in general. He talked about diversity and representation and how important that is in video games because they're an avenue for entertainment that's growing exponentially, unlike almost every other medium. He also talked about complications in creating inclusive gaming communities, and when you kind of try to allow everybody to be a part of something you're creating, not everybody that's joining is necessarily good, right? It's a very interesting discussion he has. It's very frank. To have somebody as high level as he is in a company like Microsoft talk about this stuff was really great to hear. His whole opening statement talks about him growing up as a kid and learning how to make games with his dad. He even touches on World of Warcraft and a bunch of other games, which is really cool to see, because a lot of times in these discussions, these higher-ups have a tendency to just kind of talk about the games they're associated with and their company and stuff like that. So it's cool to see him touch on World of Warcraft and a lot of other games. He also talked about I want to say they're the classic computer RPGs, and you can help me with this, Ian, because this is something I'm younger than you, so it's something I'm not too familiar with. But MUDs,
Yeah.
MUDs, yeah.
Text-based kind of role-playing servers. I used to do some of those when I was younger, like role-play only servers, like chat rooms and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was a very fascinating talk. I guess we could talk about it briefly. What do you guys think about somebody in his position being able to talk about this stuff openly, like toxic corporate culture? I mean, it's a huge issue in Hollywood right now. Yeah.
Sounds like Phil.
Yeah. He's very personable and very relatable.
Classic Phil.
He was like probably the best person for Xbox after the whole Xbox One announcement debacle with Don Matrick.
TV.
Yeah.
The one of the things that you mentioned, Jared, was that he's willing to talk about things outside of just Xbox, like other games and stuff.
Yeah.
And I do get that sometimes, especially from some of the suits higher up in certain companies, where they almost want to act like things outside their ecosystem do not exist.
Like, does he
And
say
it's-
other platform, or does he
Right,
say
yeah.
PlayStation?
Yeah, it's like, why?
Yeah.
Why? You're just, it really comes off as immature in a lot of ways. So I can appreciate when Phil Spencer or Pete Hines or anybody for that matter is willing to talk about other publishers, talk about other platform creators, as if they're exactly what they are, real and in existence. So that's a big thing for me, is even though it sounds super small, I can really appreciate that when they're mature enough to be like, yeah, PlayStation exists, PlayStation's great, but we're Xbox and we're great too, you know?
Yeah. And it's funny too, because the whole discussion of toxic corporate culture is super relevant after we've heard everything that's happened with Quantic Dream as of late.
Oh, I was gonna say Atari. Never mind.
Well, Atari as well, yeah, but that's like, going
That
back in the past.
older news, yeah.
Yeah.
What happened with Quantic Dream? I don't know if I've heard about this.
Oh, shit.
You're gonna love this
yeah,
story.
there was so basically what happened with Quantic Dream is it was reported that how would I phrase this? They would have their intercompany email chain would often make fun of other workers. I'm trying to remember
all kinds of slurs,
all kinds of
racial
slurs,
and
racial slurs,
Like sexist, like apparently like
Yeah.
sending like cartoon dicks around and weird, really
Well,
childless
or, like,
kind of stuff.
Weird.
like
All alleged,
photoshops
but, yeah.
where they've got a Nazi uniform on and they're like, in sexually explicit poses and all kinds of like really weird, goofy, like middle school bullshit.
That's what I
Weird.
said. It sounds like middle school, man. Like,
and
like American Vandal.
they're a French-based company, and they're partially funded by the government. So what happened is after these all these stories came out, Ian, the French government had put in a full investigation to investigate them, because obviously if they're being funded by the government, they need to know everything that's going on is kosher.
Right.
But there's a whole conspiracy theory that the reason why we haven't seen an announcement for Detroit is because they were planning on announcing it, and then all this stuff came out. It's like, well, we kind of don't want to make our announcement when we have a bad public image. It's a very weird, odd situation. I'm surprised you hadn't heard about it, because
I'm surprised I haven't heard about that too. Well, and also like David Cage, like putting himself in Heavy Rain, like in the secret dance video thing, like dancing around with the model of the one character in her underwear and stuff. It's like always been a little weird.
yeah.
There's stuff. It's always been a little like of an edge case where I'm like, where are you coming at this from? Like, what's happening?
Yeah, it's kind of like some of the issues that have arisen with Kingdom Come Deliverance, that whole game,
God.
and that. Yeah, there's It's funny because like I mentioned the whole situation in Hollywood with Harvey Weinstein and a lot of other people, and we're seeing this stuff kind of unfold where people are more open to talking about all of these issues, and yeah, it's that whole Quantic Dream stuff. It was the hot topic for about a week and a half, Ian. So when you get a chance, you should look, because there's a ton of gross information about what happened there. Yeah, it's very bad situation. Moving on to Sorry, do you have anything?
Well, I mean, it's cool if I haven't seen the video like you said, but of Phil Spencer, but I mean, yeah, we're in a landscape now where we need to just talk about these things openly and earnestly, and it falls to the leadership, if they're good leaders, to be the ones who start talking about it and open up that dialogue and make people feel heard and seen and protected, and like I like that. Like that's really good. And if he's coming from a place of honest open discourse like that, that's a really good thing. I mean, like, I don't think he's just doing it to like cover his ass or something like that. Like, that's a very cynical that was like a thought I had. I'm like, oh, I wonder if he's got skeletons he's trying to get out ahead of. And I was like, oh, why am I being cynical? Why am I doubting that? Why is that my first? I guess just because now I'm conditioned that like there are no heroes, right? Like everyone's a monster.
Yeah, everyone's a villain. Yeah.
Yeah, and then with stuff like Kingdom Come Deliverance, man, like, I just want to keep my distance from that. Like, anytime.
What's the deal there?
Comes up.
I gotta read about this still too.
The creator is apparently like a Gamergate supporter, and people were saying like, oh, maybe the game is kind of espousing that kind of rhetoric, you know. And they were getting on him for refusing to put people of color in the game because he kept asserting that in this part of history, he's talked to historians that there weren't people of color, they just didn't exist in this area, which is probably not true. You know, like people get around.
And if it is, it's convenient that that's what you picked, I guess.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and even if it is, like, change it. Like, why? Like, just make people feel represented. Like, what's the problem? Like, I don't know. And it's just such a sticky wicket, man. And then like people are like not covering his game because he's a Gamergater or whatever. And like, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. You know, honestly, like if you don't cover it, people are gonna come after you. If you do cover it, people are gonna come after you. And it's like the general like consensus is separate the art from the artist, right? But like. Where that gets murky is if the artist is putting that message into their art, you know, that remains to be seen. And like, for my 2 cents on it is like, sure, cover the game, discuss the artist and the political landscape that this art is being released in, and if they're pushing some kind of agenda in the game, talk about that, you know, like. Yeah. I don't know, but like, if people are being intentionally hurtful, you know, intentionally trying to exclude or hurt or damage people, whether that's through hate speech or omission, you know, of presence in a thing, you know, I think that that's bad, and I think that should be discussed and worked against, you know. Yeah. I don't know. People, well, you know, Gamergate doesn't like me, so whatever.
Well, I think the gross thing too. What Huber mentioned, I forgot something or another. Huber was talking about playing the game. Yeah, and he mentioned that there's a scene in the game where you're a son and your mom and dad are like outside or something. And your mom goes in to like cook, and the dad like smacks her on the ass as she's going in, like just like. Smacks her on the ass, and it's weird because if you're going to be so historically accurate, I don't know if back then that was something that a male did to a female. And on top of that, there's actually a scene where, spoiler alert for Kingdom Come Deliverance, your parents die, and both of your parents are laying there dead, but the son only cries and sobs over the father. He doesn't even mention the mother who's laying right there dead as well. He doesn't even
like look at her or acknowledge her death in any way, is what he was saying.
Very weird.
So I have a question. So obviously this kind of the mother father dying scene doesn't necessarily pertain to that, but Jared, you were saying like wondering if men were actually slapping women's asses back then, and then Ian, you mentioned like even if there weren't actually people with darker skin in Northern Europe during medieval times, go ahead and put them in anyways. But in some sense, I almost feel like, well, first of all, to respond to you, Jared, I do think that was probably the case. I do think that, men were probably mistreating and kind of harassing women. Even
I'm not saying they
then.
wouldn't mistreat him. It's just like the slapping of the ass thing seems like a very modern. I don't know. It just doesn't seem very historically accurate.
I think men have been treating women like garbage since the dawn of time,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if
But
it's
my
there, they've
question-
been slapping it probably.
My question to you guys is, I do think that was the case in both of those examples. I do think that there were far less people of color in Northern Europe at the time, and I also think that, as we've stated, men were definitely mistreating women at the time. So if we end up taking that stuff out of there or putting darker skin color people in, then that's like a whole different it's like the opposite of whitewashing, but still just as bad to me, because then you're rewriting history to make people feel more comfortable.
Right. I mean, there's definitely that consideration, and if you're doing it, I mean, for me it comes down to like, what are the stories that we as artists want to tell, and why are we telling them? Like, do we need another story about white people abusing women or whatever it is, like, do we need that? Maybe not, probably not. Like, whereas with something like Black Panther, it's like, that is a story that I think is valuable to society, like showing representative heroes of people of color and women in these situations, like empowering these underrepresented people is hugely powerful and meaningful. And I mean, you can see that in the outpouring of positive reactions from Black Panther, that like that story is powerful and that representation matters. It makes people feel like they matter. And that further stories in the narrative of privileged peoples, we're not really gaining anything from that as a society, and I'm not saying that we can't tell stories about medieval times and we can't tell stories about white people or men. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, like, why, like, it's not unfair to examine these stories and why they're being told.
So in addition to that too, Ian, I think we're finding, I mean, as we see with Black Panther, it's also financially smart to represent more people, right?
And Wonder Woman,
right? Because one of the I don't want to say excuses, but one of the things people used to say is like, well, like how movies are primarily white people because that's what sells, right? Well, I think we kind of, Black Panther is just one example of, well, maybe other cultures and more representation can sell too, and that seems to be the case. So I think companies are going to start to see like, well, not only like is it better for our appearance, but we're literally going to make more money by representing more people and get more people, more different groups coming to see our movie that might not have otherwise, I think.
Well, and also, I think that's true, and also I think that quality plays a huge role too. Like Black Panther just is
it's
also
not only because of that,
right. Well, and it's also just good.
It's a good movie,
which that thankfully is the case. Like if Black Panther had been terrible, it probably still would have done all right financially, but it wouldn't have had the legs that it's having. But I don't know. It's everything is such a complicated issue, and like
it's not black and white. Everything
right.
is
it's worth analyzing though, like you said.
It's definitely worth analyzing, and like obviously, like I am white and have that privilege, and I'm aware of that, and I don't know the full extent of, for example, the black experience or the female experience or, any of that kind of stuff. So I, any opinion I have has to be looked at through that lens. But yeah, I don't know. I just think like in the case of Kingdom Come Deliverance too, it's like these when a socio-political movement becomes part of the narrative of a video game, I just think that that's so interesting and strange. And like, I mean, for my money, like, it's video games, like, they're obviously, video games are art and entertainment, and like that is it's part of the news journalism kind of realm. But like, I think that a lot of these things get like, I don't know what I'm trying to say, like, more intense than they need to be. I don't know.
Yeah. I just wanted to touch on, so Jordan, you make a good point. Yeah, there is an argument there to be had of like not including things just to include them. My perspective on it is like the whole situation with that game, the reason I'm disgusted by it is the culmination of all of those parts together, not necessarily one on its own.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't look good from that perspective.
Yeah. And my other thing with it is like, if you're gonna do stuff like that, you should make it interesting in the narrative. Like for me, if I would have seen the scene of the father slapping the mom on the ass or something, then that would be a good way to kind of grow the relationship between the son and the mother, and him see what she has to deal with and stuff like that, and make an interesting narrative of like his relationship with his mother. But then to also end that with them dying and he doesn't even,
right,
sob over his mother or do anything. It just it's weird. And hearing the whole thing about the creator and his whole belief system, it's like a weird agenda kind of thing. And I don't know, I agree with Ian in a certain perspective of like, sometimes he made artistic liberties in that game, you know what I mean? It's not 100% historically accurate.
Right.
It'd be cool if he made some more interesting choices as well, I don't know, it's a very touchy subject, but like that whole thing, ugh.
And like, Jared, just I don't want you to feel like I was coming after you or whatever, because like I agree that like, if you're making a movie set in a men's prison entirely, like, it's gonna be mostly men. If you're if you're making Das Boot or whatever, like, you're gonna have a bunch of men on a submarine, and that's just what your movie is.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying like you should just inject people that like historically wouldn't be there, but like, I think a lot of it is how you handle it, how you treat it, and if you're taking other liberties, like, why not take these? But like, also just how you handle yourself and how you react to criticism, because like, when people raised objections about these things, the creator of this kind of hit back in what seemed kind of like an overly aggressive, defensive manner,
Yeah.
And it's like, these aren't personal attacks necessarily, dude. They're just like critiques of your product. And so I definitely think like, if a person gets defensive or trollish in defense of their own stuff, like, that's not always the most elegant. It's not a good look. I don't know. I didn't even want to talk about this.
It's fine. Also,
so good
like,
on Phil Spencer, though.
Yeah, good
Right,
on Phil Spencer. I do think, though, that you can find a middle ground, too, of, like, not introducing minorities or people of color just for the sake of doing it, but you can make interesting narrative decisions of, like, they're here, why are they here? And you can make that a part of the story of, like, that's weird.
Right.
Why are we, you know what I mean? You don't have to make it all super
Like,
happy-go-lucky,
Perhaps a more warrior comes through from somewhere else, and they're a cool character. Like, you can do stuff.
Well, and then it adds a whole nother layer to the combat system in that game, right? Because that's a big selling point with that game, is like, it's realistic sword-based combat, realistic in air quotes. But yeah, there's some interesting choices that can be made there. But like Dom said, congratulations to Phil Spencer on a great talk. I guess the last topic, we're going to get into something very optimistic. EA. We're going to be talking about... that was a joke, obviously. We're going to be talking about EA revealed their EA Play plans for this year. Nothing too out of the blue. It's going to be happening during E3, adjacent to it. They always hold this event where people can go and play demos for their games that are coming out. Some of the little tidbits that we got is that they announced you're going to be able to play or get a first look at the next Battlefield experience, so we'll touch on that shortly. An inside look at Anthem, and per usual, EA Sports, The Sims 4, and EA's latest mobile games. I guess last year there was a problem with the ticketing system. I don't know if you heard anything about that, Ian, being somebody who actually attended it.
I didn't go to EA Play, but I remember hearing that
E3,
the lines were really long and a lot of people couldn't get in.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what you guys are talking about. It was absolutely fabulous. Went so swimmingly.
Yeah, and it's it goes on to state it's going to be streamed on YouTube and Twitch and Facebook and Twitter and Snapgram and all that stuff.
Snapgram.
Yeah. The conversation I wanted to have here, I want to talk about EA's plans with remasters, and we can touch on that second. First of all, I want to touch on the things that they brought up. So the Battlefield experience. Now we know this is the first time them confirming we're getting a Battlefield game this year. What do we think it's going to be? We have rumors of Battlefield 5. We have rumors of Bad Company 3. Or this could be an expansion to Battlefield 4. Because they state Battlefield experience, which can mean any of those things. What do you guys think is the most likely? Are we seeing the next major installment?
Wait, an expansion to Battlefield 4 or Battlefield 1?
Battlefield 1, sorry, yeah.
It's like they're digging deep.
Yeah, my bad. Apologies. Yeah, Battlefield 1, which is weird because people are assuming that the next one's going to be Battlefield 5 if it is a numbered one. But then why do they call it Battlefield? It's weird naming conventions.
Not a fan.
Yeah, like if you don't have an idea of what you think is going to happen, what would you prefer if you could have either like a new core Battlefield or Bad Company 3? I don't know if you guys played Bad Company at all. So
Bad Company 3.
Yeah.
So I know that Hardline didn't go over so well, RIP Visceral, but I do think that it's interesting when you take these franchises, these well-established, especially these big gargantuan shooter franchises like Call of Duty or Battlefield, and you try something new with it. Obviously, Bad Company would be towards that direction of branching out a little bit more, but I'd even be interested in something completely different. Maybe like a spin-off series that hopefully they... I don't think that Visceral screwed anything up with Hardline. I think that EA handled it poorly, which is a big fucking surprise. But if they could kind of get a better grip on what direction they're trying to go in with a spin-off, I think that'd be cool.
Yeah. For me, it's probably I would want Battlefield Bad Company 3 more. I like the Bad Company games. A new like mainline series doesn't do much for me. It doesn't move the needle either way, really. It's also concerning of like which direction are they going to go? Are they going to go more World War II or even modern era? Because we've seen people have the fans of first-person shooters have a distaste for the more future-based ones. We saw Call of Duty pulling back on that, though. We might be getting Black Ops 4 this year, which I would assume is, Black Ops games are usually like part of it takes place in the future, part of it takes place in the past. There's like a lot of flashbacks and stuff. Do you guys think that the next Battlefield game will have the card like a loot box card system? Do you think that's almost guaranteed at this point?
EA seems to refuse to learn that lesson.
Yeah.
They're just not. They're not gonna stop. I feel like.
Yeah.
I think it will be better.
Yeah.
I think it won't be as like it won't affect the gameplay as much as it did in Battlefront 2. I think that was a lot of people's biggest. In addition to people's biggest problem were two things, right? The actual gambling or chance aspect of it, but then also the fact that it affected gameplay. So you could spend money and be better. So I think they'll at least tone down those two aspects of it. But yeah, there's definitely going to be some microtransactions. Hopefully more cosmetic stuff though. But who knows? I probably won't learn. I'm being hopeful.
Yeah.
I think we'd be in a lot better place with the gaming industry as a whole if we could just get rid of this bullshit loot box system where you're paying money no matter what, and then it's just a luck of the fucking draw what you're gonna get. Like, if I'm gonna pay for a microtransaction, a little nickel and diming here and there, that's fine, but I want to choose what I'm buying.
Right.
Yeah. Well, in China, they passed a law that if you have loot boxes in your games, you have to show the percentages of each item. Like, you have to be very transparent with that. I guess the other two things I want to touch on...
It's like a gambling thing, right?
Yeah. The other two things I want to touch on before we move into the whole remaster discussion is, one, there's just all these rumblings that Star Wars might take the license from EA, which is really weird. A lot of these reports surfacing that Disney is kind of irritated with the whole way everything shook out with EA and the Star Wars license. They've only delivered on 2 games in... When was that deal initially signed? Was that 5 years ago? Was
I
it
think
longer
so,
than that?
yeah.
It's been a while.
Yeah, and that they're kind of fed up with the products they've been delivered for the deal, and people think that they're going to pull the license from them. It's weird. Obviously, it's the business side to it of like legally, how can they do it? Are they dissatisfied with the whole deal in general? Do you guys think that
That's
could
how
actually
I'd
happen?
feel.
Do you think that they could pull the license? Do you
Oh
see
my
that
gosh, if
happening?
I was Disney, I'd be like, fuck you guys, we're out of here, and I think there's got to be legal precedents. Shout out to the Easy Allies podcast, a little fiduciary responsibility here, where it's like, you guys have not been, sure, the games have sold well, but they have done a lot, in my opinion, a lot of damage to the Star Wars brand.
Well, I think
so. They have, in my opinion, plenty of cause.
Yeah, I agree.
at the very least, or actually, I would say I'm pretty sure they're going to pull the exclusivity from EA, right? Where
Yeah.
EA will probably still do the next Battlefront and whatever else. What is it? Respawn that's doing a Star Wars game. That's probably still going to continue.
Respawn has a game and Motive has a game.
And Motive, right? But I think they're also going to use other developers too. Just start to move it around, and I would hope that the next Battlefront will be much different than what we saw with 2. But I still think DICE is the best developer for a Battlefront game, for a large-scale multiplayer Star Wars game. I think they're probably the best. They just made avoidable mistakes with Battlefront 2. So
yeah, it's interesting. I wonder if they're going to take the approach that they're currently taking with Marvel games, where it's not we're signing an exclusivity deal with this publisher. It's we're going to this developer and this publisher, and we want them to create this specific experience, like they did with Square Enix and Avengers and Spider-Man and Insomniac. Yeah, it's very interesting. Ian, you're a huge Star Wars nerd, like most of us are. What do you think about this whole situation?
Yeah, I mean, I was just thinking about like the insane legal linguistic gymnastics that must be those contracts,
Yeah, Jesus.
I mean,
80 pages.
I have to imagine that both sides have parachutes built into these things, but like, oh god, I don't even want to try to imagine what those things read like. But yeah, I mean, EA's had definite missteps, and then they've done things right after those missteps that you thought, well, you guys could have fixed that, and you didn't, because remember the thing that happened the other day? But like, I mean, Battlefront still sold like top 10 last year, and like, or whatever, and so Disney's probably pissed, but not that pissed, because the money is still there.
Yeah.
And,
I want to say it underperformed still, though, even though it was way
I
up
think it
there.
underperformed expectations, but I think it still
Right.
did
It was one of the
well,
best-selling games, but it sold less than the first Battlefront. So
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
I think that's more important than it might seem, though, because
it's a
of course
sequel,
it's going
right?
to sell
And
well.
they want it to sell more.
Right.
Well, but
Yeah.
it's a fucking Star Wars game. It's going to sell well. That's not what Disney wants. They don't want a
Right.
good selling Star Wars game. They could get that anywhere. They want an amazingly selling Star Wars game.
Yeah.
That meets expectations, if nothing else.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree that they want to exceed expectations. It's a little weird though, because like all the distaste for Rogue One and like the rumblings for Solo aren't great, So it's like, who knows
The
what they're
distaste for
doing.
Last Jedi.
Well, Rogue
People didn't
One
like Rogue One
specifically.
either. Yeah.
People hated Rogue One more, I think. Well, I don't know, but
I thought Rogue One was well received.
It's a whole other discussion.
yeah, that's a whole big thing.
Yeah.
My general, like, I am a Star Wars fan, a big Star Wars fan, but my kind of mentality, these dogs out there are going nuts. My mentality with Star Wars is generally like very positive, I think, compared to a lot of the fan base.
Same. Yeah.
I really like Star Wars. I go in, I watch it, I enjoy it by and large, and then I leave. And also, like, I definitely look at them as more in the Fable camp. So, like, things that a lot of people have problems with, I'm like, this is just a fairy tale, guys. Like, that's how these work. Yeah, but as far as the video games go, who knows? Like, Disney, I could see them yanking it from EA, but, like, on the other hand, like, I think that the threat of that would be just as effective. Because, like...
Yeah.
Because, like, a different developer, I mean, unless you went with some, like, crazy rogue agency that just took crazy chances and they happened to pay off, like, I don't really know how much of a difference a different developer might make. Because, like, the amount of money you're throwing at this, like, you could probably hire just about anyone. And so, like, I could see them just, like, firing a bunch of people at EA and then getting new people and trying new talent and doing this and that. And, like, they could do any number of things, you know? And I think that the products are still going to be, like, largest common denominator at the end of the day anyway.
What's like, would they rather lose the license or, like, fire Andrew Wilson, you know? It's like,
Right.
It might come down to that type of decision. Yeah, it's interesting. We'll see what happens there. The last thing I wanted to touch on is so we got the Burnout Paradise Remaster announcement, which came out of nowhere. It's coming out next month, the 16th, I believe. Which it's cool. There's people have differing opinions on the Burnout franchise. I like Burnout Paradise a lot. I'm not a huge Burnout guy. I'm not a huge car guy either way.
Love it.
Yeah. It's apparently they're keeping a lot of the licensed music in it, which is really cool. They didn't have to really cut any too much.
Won't you please take me home?
Oh, God.
Gotta have it in there. Gotta
Nice
have
rendition. The reason I want to talk about it is because in the past, EA has been very much against remasters. They've been asked about Mass Effect and Dead Space and a lot of other titles, and they've kind of been like, that's not what we do. We make new games, as they say. But with this Burnout Paradise Remaster, it seems like they're more open to the idea. So I want to talk with you guys and you know, kind of discuss what do we think is the most plausible thing. I don't think we'd see a Mass Effect trilogy remaster anytime soon, especially with Anthem on the horizon. But like a Dead Space trilogy could happen, you know, especially if they're trying to build goodwill with gamers now that they recently closed Visceral. Releasing a trilogy remaster of those games, even though people don't like 3, we talked about before the show, Jordan. It's still going to be included because of trilogy marketing. It's just easy sell. Helps them dictate the price point, make it a lot more digestible for people. I just want to know from you guys, what do you think is most likely with the remasters coming from EA, and what would you want the most from them? Because for me, it's Mass Effect, my favorite video game franchise. I would love to just play Mass Effect 1 without the loading times and some of the weird, obtuse things that don't really hold up. Because that game's so amazing, and I love it so much, and Mass Effect 2 is great too. So, yeah, what about you guys?
I think Mass Effect is most likely. I don't see a Dead Space happening. I don't know if that would be worth it, but I probably would have said the same thing about Burnout Paradise if you asked me a few weeks ago. So I guess who knows? Ideally, I'd like to see like a Knights of the Old Republic remake.
Oh,
I'm teetering on. I've never played it, so I've been teetering on playing it now. But obviously, it's a bit outdated. So that'd be cool if I could hold off and they did some kind of remake or remaster. But I think Mass Effect is most likely.
Yeah.
I mean, I only have a tertiary understanding of how, you know, games are made necessarily, but like, I think that a Burnout, I've never actually played Burnout Paradise, but I think that a car game would probably be easier to update textures and stuff, because, I mean, cars are really, like, they work well to make look really good in a video game, whereas redoing 3 giant Mass Effect games would be a massive undertaking.
Yeah, that's true.
And like Burnout Paradise, comparatively, I'm not saying it was that easy, but like you could just throw a Burnout Paradise together compared to making Mass Effect. You know, even just one of those games would be like 500 times harder.
They probably do Mass Effect separately though and charge $50 a pop.
I think that would be likely, like putting them out one at a time
individually.
And I mean, like, it would give them, especially with Mass Effect 3, like, it would give them a way to, here's a complete package of the fixed-up version of the ending of this game and all that, and tra-la-la, and, like, you know, whatever. They could repackage it like that, too. But, yeah, man, Mass Effect 1 and 2 are great. Knights of the Old Republic would be amazing to see. That'd be great. Either that would be a make-good on the Star Wars license thing, or it would be not likely, but, yeah.
Well, the interesting thing too is like EA is in a position where they kind of have to make some like good faith moves where they're not necessarily gonna profit a whole lot from it if they want to fix the way their company's seen. There was information that recently came out that they don't make any profit from the EA Originals games. 0 profit. What happens is when those games are put out for sale, they get the money back on whatever they invested in, and then that's it. And all of the revenue after that goes 100% to the developers, which is insane. because that like that's a weird for EA because they're not making any profit from it. It's just for optics. So
Less insane when you think about the fact that they make billions of dollars off of FIFA card packs.
well, no,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
But what I'm saying is, it's interesting to see them be willing to be like, oh, we're not going to make a profit on this. We're doing it for good optics.
Yeah, it's a PR thing.
Yeah.
For sure.
Ian, it's funny that you mentioned throwing a Burnout Paradise remaster together because as we were just introducing this topic, I was kind of thinking maybe this is something when Payback went down so poorly last year, Need for Speed Payback, I should say. They were like, it might be time to look back at the old Burnout franchise. And for a while now, I've really thought that the Burnout franchise was just dead because, they had Ghost break off members of Criterion after Need for Speed Most Wanted, and they are the ones that make the Need for Speed games now, have made the last 3. Obviously, Payback did not go down well at all. And so, obviously, there is still the Burnout team is there at EA with Criterion and Ghost. And Criterion, in the past, several years, has made the tech demo that showed up at E3 with, like, the off-road sports deal that was clearly way too early to show off.
Yeah.
And then they made the space combat in Battlefront 2. So they're a big enough studio that they could, be making a real game. And if they're bringing back the Burnout series, that would be amazing because it's one of my favorite series. I've always liked it a lot better than Need for Speed. I get that the brand recognition with Need for Speed is way bigger, but like you said, it is something that could possibly have been thrown together, especially when they kind of fucked themselves on Payback. So
you think they might be testing the waters with a re-release to see if there's interest? Yeah.
Yep, I'm thinking
I think you might.
It might be
right.
perfect timing.
Well,
yeah, exactly. Just because, talking about Dead Space, talking about Skate, talking about Mass Effect. Of course, I want all those remasters.
Oh,
but
Skate. Yeah.
Yeah. It's time for a lot of these EA franchises to come back. And unfortunately, they've been focusing on not putting out Star Wars games for several years now. But they have all these great franchises that we'd really like to see come back. And maybe Burnout is the egg, cracking that egg open.
Well, I think Burnout 2 plays really well in today's environment where we're getting like a different Forza every year, and then we're getting like GT or whatever comes out from Sony side, and Burnout is way more arcadey than those games for the most part, obviously with the crashing and all that stuff. I do think you have a good point. It could be them testing the waters to see, like, do people still care about Burnout? Can we?
Well, they've got Need for Speed on a 2-year cycle, and I really think that they could kind of give Need for Speed a bit more of a break and kind of have Burnout come in kind of in their off years to kind of keep it fresh.
Yeah.
And I've always thought it was weird that the 2 biggest arcade racing games in gaming were owned by the same company, but if they play their cards right, then you could do it really well.
Yeah.
Or did they do like a Need for Speed Underground remake or reboot or something like that?
That's what
Need for Speed. Snoop Dogg. Right.
Need for Speed 2015, when it was just called Need for Speed, that was
with the weird like
underground as you can possibly get.
Oh, okay. I don't follow it closely enough apparently.
Yeah, that one was good though.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of. I think that's pretty much it for the discussion. We can hop into what we're going to be playing this coming week. For me, it's more Monster Hunter World. I'm trying to figure out all of the like high rank armor stuff, Ian. So like the charms and the decorations, and there's a lot of stuff to like digest and get into.
You'll find a few like decent decorations, but by and large they're not great until you're fighting like threat level 2 tempered monsters.
Okay.
And you get high rank Alpha and Beta. Alpha has more skills and fewer slots for decorations. Beta has 1 skill generally and more slots for decorations. When you get high level augmentations, you can up the level of your armor, but those you need specific kinds of gems, and those are kind of like not very likely to drop threat level 2 tempered, and more likely threat level 3, which are just tempered elder dragons, but you don't get those until level 49 or 50. It gets pretty crazy grindy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm loving that game though. It's so much fun.
Oh, it's the best.
Like I just like going on expeditions and just exploring like the ecosystems and the ecology and everything. It's so awesome. I'm gonna try to finish Celeste this week. I still need to get around to finishing Wolfenstein 2. I've talked about that. Annihilation obviously coming out tomorrow as of recording this. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I think that's it. That's on the forefront.
You're staying on the Walking Dead train, right?
I don't know, dude.
We're riding that shit to the end.
I haven't liked this show for like the past 3 seasons, 2.5 seasons. I don't know. It's just one of those things that like I've watched so much of it, I'm invested. I don't know if I'll watch it week to week, but I'll definitely end up watching it, I guess. I don't know.
Diminishing returns, bro. Just bail.
Yeah, I know.
I bailed out in season 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, but bailing season 2 versus season 8 or 9 is a different story.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't like that show.
Yeah.
It's the sunken cost fallacy is what it is.
Yeah.
It's going to get better. It's going to get better.
It's tough too because like at least I could like watch Walking Dead and be like, at least Game of Thrones is in June, but we don't even have Game of Thrones this year. So it's
you got Westworld.
Yeah,
I guess I need to catch up on Westworld actually. Yeah, good point. I might just ditch Walking Dead.
Yeah, fuck Walking Dead. Get on Westworld.
Catch up on Westworld. I think I'm like on episode 6. I think there's like what 11 episodes in the first season.
10? 8 or 10.
Yeah. So I'm near the end.
You're right. You're right into the like weird lull in the middle of the first season.
Yeah. Well, there was the big reveal that happened with the guy with glasses and the beard. I don't know how to say it without spoiling it.
Don't spoil it.
Yeah,
you've already said too much.
Too much. Yeah. That's pretty much it for me. What about you guys? What do you have going on this week?
So obviously, Annihilation, as you said, I got the tickets for just a few hours from now. Super pumped.
Ah.
And then we'll see about Walking Dead. I am unfortunately riding the train till it ends, but it's certainly not something I'm super hyped on. And then guys,
if that train was like a movie, it'd be like the back of Snowpiercer.
Talk about trains you don't necessarily want to be on. If we could get some fucking review scores out, then it's looking like I might be jumping into the old Metal Gear Survive.
I read a thing that says that you need to pay for a second character save slot
with in-game currency. I think in-game currency. Yeah, it costs 1,000 of whatever currency it is.
Yeah, that's certainly dumb as fuck. But I'm only gonna be using one. Yeah. So either way, I'm just.
Man, we streamed that game the other day, and I just everything about it. I'm like, oh boy, get me out of here.
Did you play Phantom Pain?
Yeah, half of it.
Does it feel like Phantom Pain? Moment-to-moment gameplay, controlling the character.
It looked like the controls were the same, similar.
Yeah, see, that's what it is, man. That shit is silky.
On the stream, someone asked if I'd played, and I lied and said that I had, so that I wouldn't have to play it.
Love the ending.
For Survive, I mean.
Oh, like when you guys are passing around the controller or whatever?
Yeah, Brandon or whoever was like, Ian, did you play? I'm like, yeah, I played for 20 minutes. That was not
That's even
true.
better.
The only clip I saw was somebody clipped out, I guess during the stream, there was a part where Kyle was poking Huber when he was playing, and like Huber like unleashed on him.
Oh yeah, Kyle was being kind of a dick during the stream.
He was like, Huber's like, oh, Kyle giving me advice on multiplayer games. It was really funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then like 2 minutes later, Huber was like, I'm sorry, I snapped.
Yeah. That game's a whole conversation for another day, but I mean, it looks decent. It's weird that no one knew it was coming out. Like, obviously people knew, but like there was like no marketing behind it or anything. It's like a very weird situation. Very weird. I wonder if it's a thing with them that they're like, let's just sneak this in. People who want to buy it, buy it. Let's just not cause a commotion. Yeah.
They were trying to Cloverfield paradox it out.
Yeah. Sorry for cutting you off, Jordan.
No, you're good. I think that's pretty much about it. I don't think really got anything too special.
Nice.
I will watch The Walking Dead. I mean, maybe I'm lying to myself, but I still like it enough to watch it.
You do you.
Module boo.
Otherwise, I still have a bunch of stuff to do around this damn house. so I don't plan on getting to any games. If I do get to anything, it'll be Persona 4.
You got a new house, Ian,
But,
by the way. You just moved in. That's what.
Yeah, you bought your first house, Dom? You and Emily?
Yeah.
Whoa,
it happened.
Congratulations.
So yeah, this week, I mean, we still got to wrap things up at the old apartment before that's all done with. Hopefully I can get my deposit back. And it's a whole conversation.
Ian, can you tell that he doesn't live in LA considering he bought his house?
Yeah. Woo. Yeah.
What about you, Ian? More Monster Hunter?
Yeah.
Slay the Spire, right? Is that the game you were talking about?
Slay the Spire I've been playing. I'm going to jump into this new Stellaris. What else?
A new Civ
Monster
expansion
Hunter.
came out, right? Sorry to interrupt you. A new Civ expansion
Is that
came out
out
recently?
Yeah, I don't know
think.
if that's out yet.
I've been having an itch to play Civ for some reason. I don't know why. Just, I want to jump in. Yeah. Sorry. You were talking about Stellaris and it reminded me of Civ for some reason. So.
Yeah, I mean, they're very similar. Yeah, I don't know if that came out yet. I'm looking. I don't want to type because it'll cause noise, but whatever. Yeah, but if that's out, I'd probably pick that up too. Yeah, really excited for Annihilation. And then I'm going on vacation in a week or two, so I need to just do a bunch of easy updates before I go. Yeah.
Stockpile.
Stockpile
Where
busy.
you headed?
Hawaii, never been.
Awesome.
Oh,
Cool.
Yeah.
One more little tidbit. I was thinking about whether or not to mention this because it's not a huge deal, but then I thought, no, it is a big deal. They just started up the second half of the final season of Star Wars Rebels. So catching up on that. And we've talked a lot about that with Dom, jumping into Clone Wars and stuff. But that show's been really cool. You know, Disney's first Star Wars show. Obviously, it's animated and even more kind of kid-oriented than Clone Wars was. And, of course, we're going to be getting some Star Wars live action coming in the future. So very excited about that. Possibly even the Game of Thrones guys, if that's what they end up doing. So very excited about that. But also really happy with the team that has been doing Clone Wars and Rebels all these years. It'll be interesting to see if they end up sticking together for more Star Wars stuff. But yeah, shout out to that show.
Real quick. Sorry, go ahead, Ian.
Oh, I was just gonna ask. I heard that Game of Thrones Star Wars thing. Were they getting their own trilogy of movies, or are they doing a show?
Their own trilogy.
That's what.
Yeah.
Are you sure? Because I just heard that they were.
I'm
had their
98% sure that they were confirmed to have their own trilogy that they're writing.
Yeah, well, you were sure about Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yes. Very, very valid point. Very valid point.
I wonder if Ryan
Get me
Johnson
like that.
still gets his trilogy of movies too.
Yep. I think they're gonna actually, after episode 9, my assumption is they're gonna put the Skywalker saga on hold, and we're gonna get these two different trilogies along with the movies in between or whatever. So
I mean, it seemed like in Jedi they were setting up a different kind of Jedi situation. Also, does that mean the Game of Thrones guy's weird, like really misguided Slavery Never Stopped show is not happening?
Yeah, they basically said like, yeah, we're out.
They said that?
Yeah, they're basically like,
good.
Star
that
Wars
was a terrible,
is kind of a
terrible
bigger
idea.
deal. Yeah.
That was a horrible idea.
They got a lot of backlash. Speaking of Game of Thrones, did you see what George R. R. Martin came out and said about the books?
What did he say?
I'm paraphrasing. Winds of Winter is the new one that's coming out, right? That he's currently writing?
Yeah, Winds of something, yeah.
Winds of something, yeah. So apparently he's writing a 2-part Targaryen standalone story, and he's hoping to release the first one, and then he's going to release the next mainline book, and then he's going to release the second Targaryen book, and then he's going to release the next Game of Thrones mainline book.
Oh my god.
So people are like,
Important addendum to
write
what
the
you
books.
just said. Important addendum, Jared.
Okay.
There are already 2 Targaryen short stories that he's written and put out.
Yeah, but these are like an extension
So
of that.
we definitely need more Targaryen shit, buddy.
Exactly. That's it for the podcast, guys. Thank you guys for listening to episode 89 of the Control Ditches Gamecast. Ian, if they don't know, please let them know where they can find you.
I'm on Twitter at Ian Hinck. Otherwise, EasyAllies.com or Easy Allies Patreon, whatever. All that stuff.
Go watch episode 100 of Easy Update. It's great. It's fantastic. I even like the was it episode 99 or which one did he help Huber edit?
Yes.
Yeah, it was
editing with
99.
Huber. I loved it.
Editing
As an
101.
editor myself, I loved like having somebody who edits explain editing to somebody who's not super familiar with it.
You did a great job, dude. That's not
Oh,
easy
thanks.
to like boil that down.
Oh,
Yeah. Huber's a good pupil. He makes it easy.
Yeah. That's pretty much it. If you can, please follow us on iTunes if you aren't already. Leave us a review if you can. That definitely helps. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Actually, as the day of recording this, so this will be coming out afterwards, uploaded the second episode of our series, A Look Back At, which is basically a short form 20 to 30 minute conversation where we talk about games from the past. Usually optimistic. We are critical about the games, but an optimistic view of our memories of that game and our experiences. Hopefully Ian can be on in the future. This one was about Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare. The first episode, if you missed it, was about Batman Arkham City. We have a couple of other episodes in the pipeline, including Kingdom Hearts and Limbo as well. So definitely stay tuned for those. They're really short too. They're like 20 minutes. We just talk about the game and go through it and that kind of stuff. So hopefully you check that out. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you guys for listening and or watching. How do you guys take the podcast?
Jared,
Yeah.
quick info on the Star Wars thing.
Okay.
Oh, here we go.
So you were mostly right. Quote from Bob Iger here. It says, their interest was in creating a series of films that are Star Wars based. To my knowledge, they didn't express interest about a series. So it looks like he says series of films. It doesn't necessarily mean a trilogy, but he said, they're not necessarily interested in doing like a TV series.
Okay. 1 for 2. Batting 500. Yeah. Thank you guys for listening. Catch us next week, and we'll see you guys next time.